Good thing you didn't go online today.
Hi. We would like to use,
Oh, and I need your name and address for Donna.
my name is Catherine Baker.
Address?
My home address,
Address, it can be home or,
51315 Stony Brook Drive, Granger, Indiana, 46530.
great, tell us about this appeal.
We would like to use this school to become a daycare for children from 6 weeks old to 13 years old before and after school care. We currently have a building that we have grown out of, and this building would help us a lot, and it would help the community.
Great, any questions for Ms. Baker?
Where's your current building?
30677 Old US 20, Elkhart, Indiana.
And how long have you been running that business?
5 years.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Baker? Oh, thank you for the presentation. Is there anybody else in the room or online wishing to speak in favor of Appeal 23-34? Is there anybody in the room or online wishing to speak against Appeal 23-34? Is there any additional information on this appeal?
Chris?
Whoop. Oh, hi, come on up. Sorry, I didn't see you back there.
My name is Jeffrey Miller. I live at 321 West 7th Street, so I live about half a block west of the day school. I have a question. Is the Jewish community like the organization that owns the day school, going to be selling this to the new organization? And are you for profit? How many students or children do you anticipate you'll have coming in and out, and what are the times? Just, it's going to affect, we come right out that alley all the time, so it's going to have direct effect on us. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have some of those questions answered. If you could, Ms. Baker, if you could come back up, please. Hi, if you can help us answer some of these questions, that would be great.
Yes, they are going to be selling the property. We will open at 5 in the morning. We close at 6 in the evening. And our pickup and drop-off that we're planning on doing is going to be done mostly in the front right now till we learn more about the area. And we anticipate having, I hope, a lot of children. I'm not for sure how many. The building holds 250. So I don't know if we'll have that many, but I anticipate as many families as we could help.
Okay, thank you for answering those questions.
No additional information.
Okay, all right. Moving on, is there anybody else wishing to speak against Appeal 23-34? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. And if there's any questions on Appeal 23-34, or I'll take a motion.
I move that we approve Appeal 23-34.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Donna, would you please call for the vote?
Adam Gersbauer,
Yes.
Joel Dendu,
Yes.
and Chris Torty.
Yes. And Appeal 23-34 will move to the council with a favorable rating.
Mr. Chairman, I did pass forward my cell phone, so we do have, I believe, the previous applicant on my cell phone.
We have
Can you hear
3
me?
of them, which the previous one, so Appeal 23-33.
Yes, I can hear you.
And your petition, sir, I'm sorry, I'm not sure which number.
It was number 32 and 33, Lincoln Way and Grape Road, the landscaping.
Okay,
Okay,
you'll have to do them one at a time, Mr.
Yep.
Chairman. Okay.
Yep.
Appeal 23-32. If you could present your appeal, sir, and give us your name and address.
My name is Joseph Levitich. My address is 139 Powhatan Parkway in Hampton, Virginia. That's why I'm calling in.
Okay, tell us about this appeal, number 23-32.
So basically what happened was the landscaping contractor on this project took advantage of us and planted plantings that are far too small per the city's requirements after some discussion with Derek Spire, we came to an agreement that if we planted a few additional plantings of the proper size, that it would suffice the city's requirement, and that time would allow the existing trees to proliferate enough that they would grow up and become the proper size. And on the document that's currently on the monitor there, the new trees are highlighted in yellow. And so that's what we're proposing, is planting along the property perimeter there with those new larger trees. They're going to be 2-inch trunk minimum.
Great, thank you. And thank you for working with our city and our city planner on that issue. Is there any questions on this appeal? Is there anybody else in the room or online wishing to speak in favor of 23-32? Is there anybody in the room or online wishing to speak against 23-32? No additional info?
No.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing, and I will take a motion on Appeal 23-32.
I move to approve 23-32.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Donna, would you please call for the vote?
Adam Gersbauer,
Yes.
Joel Dindu,
Yes.
Chris Torty.
Yes, and Appeal 23-32 passes. That brings us to Appeal 23-33, an appeal submitted by TB Grape Road LLC requesting a developmental variance for 5501 Grape Road, Mishawaka, to allow for a reduction in landscaping for undersized trees. Sir, please name and address and present your appeal.
Again, Joseph Levitich, 139 Powhatan Parkway in Hampton, Virginia. The situation here is the same as with the previous appeal. Same landscape contractor shorted us on the scope and size of the trees. The trees he planted were not in compliance with the spec on the plans. We didn't realize until after he had already flown, and we don't have recourse against him except for litigation. The new trees, same arrangement as previously. We spoke with Derek Spire, and he is allowing us or has proposed that we plant the larger compliant trees as noted by the highlighted marks while we wait for the rest to mature.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the room or online wishing to speak in favor of Appeal 23-33? Hearing none, is there anybody online or in the room wishing to speak against Appeal 23-33? With that, we'll close the public hearing, and I will ask for a motion on that appeal.
Move that we approve Appeal 23-33.
I have a motion for approval
Second.
and a second. Donna, would you please call for the vote?
Adam Gersbauer,
Yes.
Joel Dindu,
Yes.
Chris Torty.
Yes, and Appeal 23-33 passes.
Thank you.
We'll circle back to Appeal 23-28, the Wendy's Restaurant, one more time. We haven't heard anything on that.
I think go to the next item, and I'd ask IT to forward my cell number to that applicant as well,
Okay,
so they can call in.
so it's old business is the last.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Old business. We have Appeal 23-18 that will be going to the council to reconfirm findings from Board of Zoning Appeals meeting on June 13, 2023 for a use variance for a self-storage C4 automotive-oriented district for property located at the northeast corner of East McKinley and Maplehurst in Mishawaka, Indiana. Is there someone here to speak on this?
I believe Mr. Spear is planning on speaking tonight, so I'll fill in.
Okay.
Essentially, the city clerk's office asked us to reconfirm, based on the procedural, I believe the number of days to certification, Donna, were out of,
Correct.
was out
The
of,
number of days has been exceeded. I think it's 60, and so with the time frame in June, it exceeded that. So we just need to reconfirm the original findings.
Okay, is there a public hearing on the reconfirm?
yes, essentially,
Okay.
I would open it up. And again, I'm not expecting any, but I think
Sure.
Procedurally, you should open it up.
Thank you for the explanation on the reconfirm. I've been here quite a few years, and this is the first time
I believe it's my first as well.
I've seen it. All right, well, hey, there's always something new. See, all you guys got this excitement tonight. It's good stuff. Appeal 23-18, is there anybody else in the room or online wishing to speak in favor of that appeal? Hearing none, is there anybody online or in the room wishing to speak against Appeal 23-18? I'll speak against it. Come on up.
Chris Catania, 605 Laurel Street. Obviously, it's advantageous for me to speak against this because it's 1 mile from my brand-new self-storage facility that I just built and spent millions of dollars in this community buying a property that had a proper zoning to start with. So my issue with this is it's not zoned properly. It goes against the master plan. It sets a precedent, a bad precedent. So if you approve this, you could have self-storage in every commercial zone. So I hope that you stick with the master plan, the current zoning, and deny this use for this property. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else online or in the room wishing to speak against Appeal 23-18? Mr. Prince, can you fill us in on?
Yes, I appreciate the passion in the appeal to deny, but at the same point in time, you've approved this
Right.
and approved the findings 3 months ago. I think it would be a contradiction not to proceed and approve it with the same findings that you did previously. So that's what staff is recommending.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would also note that there's multiple storage unit facilities up and down McKinley where this is located as well. So there's not a precedent regarding adding self-lock storage to McKinley Avenue in this location.
Certainly. With that, we'll close the public hearing. And if there's no discussion on 2318, I'll take a motion, or unless you have some questions.
I move to reapprove 23-18.
Second.
Donna, would you please call for the vote?
Adam Gersbauer,
Yes.
Joe Dendo,
Yes.
Chris Doherty.
Yes, and the findings have been reconfirmed. And remember, this will move to the council for vote. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, before you adjourn, I'd like IT to confirm if they can, I can't see through the window from here, but
Thumbs up,
They have-
thumbs down? Thumbs up meaning good, Wendy's? Thumbs up meaning not not good. Oh, okay, so the thumbs up went to thumbs down. I hate to do this, but Appeal 23-28, I'll take a motion to move that to the next month's meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And Appeal 23-28 will be moved to the next zoning board. New business.
no, Mr. Chairman.
Privilege of the floor. Would anybody like to talk about anything that was not on the agenda tonight? Hearing none, then we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Donna, can you speak in, your mic is working, is that correct?
Yes,
Great.
this one is not.
10th, Mishawaka Plan Commission meeting. Introduction of the staff. To my right, we have our Executive Director, Ken Prince. Next to Ken, we have Donna Burkhart, our Administrative Planner. Over there on my right-hand side, we also have Shad Annis. He is our Associate Planner. And then in the front row, we have David Bent, our Legal Counsel. Donna, would you please call the roll?
Sorry, we're sharing over here. Chris Chambers. Here. Mary Nguyen.
Here.
Woody Emmons.
Here.
Sam Cressy.
Here.
Nick Triola. Dale Freeman. Kathy White Gaddage.
Here.
Mike Portalease.
Here.
And Chris Doherty.
Here, thank you. And the rules of procedure are up on the board to my right and left. First, we'll hear a presentation by the petitioner for each item. We will ask those participating in the room to speak first, followed by those participating online. We had some issues with online at the last meeting, so be patient if we have issues there again. Then we'll hear those who wish to speak in favor of the request, then those wishing to speak against the request. If you have general questions and you don't know whether you're speaking for or against, I suggest you come up during the against. We'll accumulate all of those questions and concerns, and we'll hear a right of rebuttal by the petitioner. We'll hear if there's any additional information on this item from our staff. And then we'll close the public hearing, have a commission discussion, and then a commission vote. A reminder that we do all of our speaking at the podium. And when you come up, if you could please leave your name and address clearly for Donna to take that down, it would be greatly appreciated. Previous month's minutes were distributed. Were there any corrections or additions to those minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the previous minutes are accepted. Is there any conflict of interest on any of the items by the commissioners today? No, all right. Moving right along, this brings us right to the first petition. Petition 23-20, a request submitted by Petkoff and Sons LLC requesting to rezone property at 1213 East Jefferson Boulevard from I-2 heavy industrial to C4 automobile-oriented commercial for lots 1 through 8 and for 2 vacant parcels with frontage on Stanley Street to R1 single-family residential for lots 28, 29, and west half of lot 27. Hi, is there somebody in the room to present this petition?
Hello,
Hello.
I'm Grigor Petkov. Give you the address.
Yes, please.
Grigor Petkov, 1315 Highland Village Drive, Mishawaka, Indiana, 46545.
Great. Tell us about this petition then.
So
Presenting.
I purchased the Regio's restaurant with the 2 parking lots a little after I had purchased the parking, well, it was a grassy area that's right across from my car lot. So I'm converting that portion, so the portion to the left, I'm converting that into more frontage space. And I just wanted to work on, combining the two and making it the same, yeah.
Great. Questions for Mr. Petkoff?
Is the restaurant going to be demolished?
So what I want to do is submit a plan on changing that completely and not in the next year, maybe the end of next year. And I'm going to submit a plan to change that into service, to add more service space for me. Because unfortunately, right now, I just don't have enough space.
Any more questions for Mr. Petkoff? Nope. Thank you for the presentation. Is there anybody else in the room wishing to speak in favor of 23-20 petition? Online? Is there anybody in the room or online wishing to speak in opposition to petition 23-20? Is there any additional information on this petition? Nope. Then I will close the public hearing. And are there any commissioners wishing to speak? If not, I will take a motion.
Actually, have a
Go.
Just a piece of commentary. I'm in favor of the development and happy to see some vacant property be redeveloped. I just have always thought that that area on Jefferson, the industrial portion of it seems a little out of place next to, the public works improvements further. I believe it's to the east and the nice homes. It's just sort of, I've just always thought that that's strange. Really, I'm happy to see the development, and it complies with everything that staff has requested and is appropriate for the area, and I'm in favor of it. Just a comment as far as the general layout of the city. I always thought that this small little area of industrial was just a little strange. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. Emmons?
Yes, I have some questions. Are you going to infringe on Troop Town?
Elaborate.
Well, that the development that the VFW is building up in your area, just to the east, and if you're taking over the old restaurant and that, how far are you going east?
Well, so the property line ends, which is very strange. It ends very, I don't even know, like maybe 2-3 feet away from the wall of that building. So it ends like abruptly right after the restaurant ends, and then they take over, I believe. So no, I don't intend on infringing in any way. I didn't think there was a way to do that. And I like what they're doing. There is some concerns, but that's another story.
Well, I just have a concern of what the VFW is trying to do with Troop Town and that, and build that up and that, and then also sudden have this industrial people come in, buildings and everything like that. It's going to kind of destroy what Troop Town's trying to develop over there.
So I have no intent on destroying anything that they're trying to do. I mean, my house is right behind Troop Town in the subdivision that, when I sit in my front porch, I see the back portion of VFW. So I want to make that area better. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a lot better than what it was before I touched it, and that's my intention. So.
Okay, you're moving your business from across the street basically for selling, right?
Yeah, servicing the vehicles and selling them, yes.
And then so across the street where you're proposing to build your building, that's for automobile repair and maintenance and that?
Yes, correct.
Okay. How many stalls are you going to have there?
I don't know. I have to do the calculations because I just don't know what I can physically put in there. I mean, I want to maximize the space that I have.
Okay, and you're aware of all the OSHA requirements?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't want to, image is very important to me. And like I said, this is in my backyard. So I have to answer to my wife before I answer to all of you. And she voiced that concern. Yeah, and I feel the same way. I mean, I'm putting my roots here, and this is not the only business I have here. And I love the city, and I'm very, touching on, I'm scared what Troop Town is going to bring, and I hope that it's positive things. So I have very serious concerns, but again, I feel like that's not discussion.
But
Yeah.
see, I have serious concerns of what you're going to bring.
Absolutely, and
So, we're on a kind of collision path in that. I mean, I've seen auto body shops, they have junk cars setting outside, they
Yeah.
have parts setting outside.
I can't
They have,
stand that. That's
tow truck and that, and like I say, but then I've also seen shops that have been enclosed, everything is inside, nothing is outside. What's your proposal of storing things outside?
I don't like storing things like that outside. I mean, feel free to drive by and see my operation right now. All I intend of doing is actually expanding what I'm already doing. So I can show, obviously, by example, what I'm already doing across the street. I don't have any intention of making it look like a junkyard, because I don't understand how you can come to any business that looks like that and do I'm in retail, so I have to be presentable.
Okay, I know
And that's
your-
very important to me.
I know your business across the street does not have any landscaping or anything like that.
Correct.
What are you proposing on this?
So I already have submitted landscaping plans with the city, and I have a fantastic landscaper that's going to do an amazing job. And you'll be seeing that soon.
Okay, and are you planning to do the landscaping across the street to tie in with the new development?
There's not much I can do. I mean, this is all asphalt there. I have a stretch of about, I don't think there's much I can do there. Whatever I do, it's just going to kill the plants, so.
Okay. Well, I hope that you're welcome to the community and you put up a building that
Thank you.
fits the community and is not a tear down.
No, I intend that. That's very important to me.
Okay, I'll take your word for that.
Please do.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
The concrete looks good.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have a quick question for you. The area noted P3 where you're rezoning to R1, what's your intent? Are you going to build homes there, or what's your intent for that parcel?
I honestly don't. Which one is that? Hold on.
P3 is one right in the middle, the one you're rezoning to residential R1?
So I don't know why I think this was a package that she asked, Krista from planning asked me to do that way. So I kind of followed her lead on that. I'm not sure why I was asked to do that. I just, I wanted to comply with you guys. And I think she said that I couldn't, I wanted it all to be parking for any, any overflow or anything like that. I mean, it's just a parking lot. So she said that the way it was currently zoned wasn't, what was the, industrial? It was like heavy industrial? It just didn't make any sense. So she just, asked me to, I followed the lead there. I'm not sure. I have no intentions of doing anything on that whatsoever.
Mr. President, we asked for that as staff, to have that down zone to residential as a buffer to the residential as you get further to the south. And there is some residential. You can see the yellow on the map. There's already a residential house there. So we thought that alley is essentially the dividing line between the commercial and then what we consider residential long-term. Historically, why this was industrial, as many of you know, is there were industrial businesses there, and it was done to match the zoning. There's no landscaping on the north side because there were no landscaping requirements when that car lot was originally constructed. So we're dealing with a lot of non-conforming situations, and as we hit properties, we try to improve them. And that's why we asked for the change in zoning to residential.
Makes sense. Thank you. Thank you
So
for
that
clarification.
land will be pretty much of no use to you.
Yeah, I mean, the only use I'll have, it's an asphalt parking lot and just overflow if I ever have to park there.
No, you can't park on residential, sorry. So once it's zoned residential, our recommendation is to market it as a single-family lot, and we know if you're looking for tax deduction, my guess is Habitat or Building Trades would love to have that lot if you're so inclined, but it has to be used for residential. You can't use it for parking.
I didn't know that. Okay. But again, the point on that one is I can't leave it as B anyway, right? That's the whole idea. Like,
So right now, I mean, Reggio's, for whatever reason, was not properly zoned. So
Okay.
the fact that you're asking for a change to automobile-related uses, we did not want that automobile-related use to continue to the south. So that's why we asked you to change the zoning to residential as part of your request, to change this to commercial.
okay.
Either way, if there are reservations, my suggestion is to proceed this evening, and then we would address it potentially before the
Yeah.
council. So I don't think there's anything to be worked out at
Yep.
this very moment.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioners, is there any other questions or discussion topics on this item? If not, I'll take a motion on 23-20.
But before we, just comments.
Okay, yeah.
I feel that maybe his plan's a bit immature at this point. He's still learning about it himself here, and I might suggest that he withdraw and find out more about what he's doing himself before he brings it back to us? Because I think, in the way it stands right now, I'd have to vote against it because I don't think that our petitioner fully understands what he's doing.
So my main concern was to rezone the frontage of Jefferson. Yes, which is that right there. So, and I don't think I can split the two. You know, I want to make sure the city's happy with what I'm doing. You know, if I'm building anything, I want to maximize the space that I have. And no, I mean, of course, the concerns are always going to be there. You know, what am I going to do? And I understand that's a concern with any business that ever opens anywhere. That's not who I am, and all I can do is prove that by my actions. So I'm not sure, I mean, we can always table it, but then I'll be back here next month. I just have to sit down and have a discussion about
Mr.
that.
President, I would defer to, I mean, to the applicant in this case, if they want it deferred or not, that's entirely up to them. To me, staff is not going to acquiesce, if you will, from the R1 zoning. We feel like that is appropriate. That's our recommendation. If he would like to pursue another, he has that ability to apply and to change that as a separate petition. But right now, the petition that you're considering, my guess is you'd want to move forward on the Jefferson piece.
Yes.
And the only way to do that is to have a vote on the entire petition, because that's what this petition for.
Okay.
So it's your choice if you want to continue this or withdraw this and refile it with a different zoning classification against staff's recommendation. You're welcome to do that.
Okay.
But that's your choice this evening. You can either choose to continue as is, or you can withdraw it.
With everybody's permission, yeah, I would like to withdraw it and go back to the drawing board and have a longer discussion with the staff, and refile.
And I appreciate that.
Okay? Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good one.
Any other commissioners' discussions on this? Otherwise, I will take a motion to withdraw petition 23-20.
I'll make the motion to withdraw this petition.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Donna, would you please call for the vote?
Chris Jamrose,
Okay, so I agree with the withdrawal, so I'm trying to say is that yes?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the,
Murray Wynn,
Yes.
Woody Emmons,
Yes.
Sam Cressy,
Yes.
Kathy White Gaddich,
Yes.
Mike Portalese,
Yes.
and Chris Doherty.
yes. And petition 23-20 has been withdrawn and will not move to the council. That brings us to the next item, petition 23-21, a request submitted by the heirs and devotees of Helen M. Sagerman, deceased, requesting to annex and establish zoning as S2 Planned Unit Development District for property northeast of Fur Road and Beacon Parkway, and a request submitted by First Source Bank to amend part of northeast Fur and Cleveland Road Planned Unit Development. Is there somebody in the room to speak and present petition 23-21?
Mr. President, I just want to note for the record, too, that they had submitted an electronic presentation that IT should have queued up. So I'm letting IT know, as I'm letting you know that as well.
In the meantime, I can introduce myself and state my name. So Jordan Tyken, address is West 134 North 8675 Executive Parkway, Menominee Falls, Wisconsin.
I'm Ben Walker with Continental Properties, same address.
IT, if you're able to pull that presentation up now, we can start there.
Uh-oh, we have IT walking out.
On this laptop, I take it?
Looks good. Oh, I can see it in front of me.
Wonderful, excellent. Well, thank you all. Good evening to everyone. Again, my name is Jordan. I'm joined here by my colleague, Ben Walker. We're here this evening on behalf of Continental Properties. To start, we'd just like to give a brief introduction on who Continental Properties is. So Continental is a national multifamily housing developer, 40-plus years of experience of hospitality, retail, and multifamily development. To date, Continental has developed multifamily communities in 19 states and over 35,000 homes. So all of that, speaks to our robust experience in the development space of multifamily communities. I should also add that we own and operate the communities that we develop. Continental also has a strong footprint in the Lake Michigan region, so you can see here a map showing projects that are currently in development, under construction, or have stabilized and are considered developed. And then there you can see a marker placed on South Bend. So, we can dive into this more as you pose questions, but we're keen to get into the South Bend market. So what would we be looking to develop here? So Continental has a premium flagship brand called Springs. So this development would be called Springs at Mishawaka. All of our Springs development are market rate, 2-story garden-style apartment homes, and offer a host of amenities, pet playground, pool, community clubhouse with Wi-Fi, a chef-style kitchen, valet trash, et cetera. And happy to get more into that conversation on amenities as we proceed.
Sure. So briefly, to just kind of contextualize the site, this is a location that Continental is really excited about. We view this intersection of Beacon Fur as kind of a waypoint, kind of connecting a lot of the higher intensity commercial and healthcare uses along Beacon Parkway with some of the higher intensity retail and commercial uses along Cleveland to the west. So, overall, we're really excited about the location. We feel that our proposed land use is in harmony with the greater area of this intersection.
So that brings us to why we're here this evening. As part of our plan for development, there is an annexation and rezone that would be required. So the exhibit that you see here on your screen is the existing condition, the northern parcel currently being unincorporated within St. Joseph County, and then the southern parcel, which is currently within the city of Mishawaka, has an existing zoning designation of S2 PUD, but we would need to amend that PUD. So this here is a graphic displaying what we're proposing. So first being the annexation of that land currently within St. Joseph County into the city of Mishawaka, then an amendment of the PUD, and then along with that, a dedication of the right-of-way along Fur to the city of Mishawaka. So that brings us to the proposal, our site plan. So like I said, these are all 2-story buildings, 14 residential buildings, 20 units each, a mix of studio to 3-bedroom. So in total, 280 units, along with a clubhouse. Ingress and egress would be off of Beacon Parkway. There is an emergency access location shown here on the screen along Fur Road, but I'd like to highlight that that's for emergency access only, and residents of our community could not use that ingress and egress point off of Fur. This community would be gated as well. There would be a gate at the entry point along Beacon Parkway. Along with that, just to speak on some other aspects of our site plan, there'd be a combination of attached garages. So there would be 9 attached garages to each residential building, and then in addition to that, detached parking garages as well as surface parking. This is a elevation of the clubhouse that we'd be proposing. This is front and back elevations of our residential building. And I'd like to highlight, there is a lot of articulation with the facades of our buildings. It's, somewhat difficult to see from this, this elevation, but there is a lot of architectural interest along these facades. So in addition to, the images I just showed, there'd also be another color scheme. So there'd be variation in, the buildings as you move throughout the community. And then lastly, we'd just like to wrap up by showing you models of our units, just to speak to, the space that they offer. And you can see, again, our studio through 3-bedroom offerings. So that's all we had this evening, and looking forward to discussing this with all of you.
Questions on this presentation?
Have you considered the possible widening of Fur Road at some point? Is that going to change your plan if Fur Road ever becomes widened to a 4-lane north-south corridor?
I would say that would not change our plan. We have not looked into that. That's not part of our development proposal. But if I can just jump back here to our plan, we would be dedicating land to the city of Mishawaka for right-of-way. So it would be up to the city, as to whether or not they feel like that would be worthwhile.
Would that be sufficient to widen that road, which you're deeding or giving us the right-of-way for?
If I may comment, Mr. President.
Sure.
So the right-of-way being asked for is to expand Fur Road in the future to a 3-lane section with essentially a widened walkway on likely the east side of the road. That is not currently in our capital improvements plan funding, so any construction or widening would likely exceed 10 years before anything would happen on that section of roadway. But again, anytime property is developed, we ask for the right-of-way, so we are appropriately have the building set back where the roadway can be expanded in the future, even if it's 20 or 30 years in the future. It's important that we get the right-of-way at this point in time.
Perfect. Thank you. That was Ken Prince, our Executive Director. Thank you for that comment. Mr. Cressy?
Answer my question. Thank you.
And if we addressed traffic control at the entrance and exit, seeing there's a single entrance and exit off of Beacon, are we looking at a light there, some type of controlled intersection?
There would, as of today, we have not looked at a controlled intersection there. In our conversations with staff and in a pre-application meeting, that was not discussed.
Sure.
Mr. Emmons?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. First of all, how many anticipate population in there?
Yeah, so we average across our communities about 1.95 residents per unit, so we're looking at just under 550 residents in this community.
And you're anticipating just one entrance and one exit, the same, to accommodate 550 cars?
Yes, to answer that question, it would be less than 550. Typically, we have anywhere from 1.3 to 1.5 vehicles per unit. But, across our large portfolio, that does not pose an issue, with vehicle stacking to enter. That's never been a problem for us, having that one point of ingress and egress.
Coming to Beacon Parkway, is that going to cause a problem of entering and exiting your development? Since there is no stop sign, no traffic signal or anything like that.
Right. I mean, we could explore the use of a stop sign at that intersection. I'd like to add, I don't know the exact distance offhand, but I would imagine, just based on looking at the site plan now, that there'd be adequate room to stack, 5 to 6 cars waiting to get into the gate, so there would not be overflow onto Beacon Parkway.
Well, the idea of getting out in the back of people being stalled to get out on the Beacon Parkway.
Yeah, and again, looking at this plan, I think there'd be room for multiple cars to stack, and, at this point in time, that's not a concern of ours.
Well, it is a concern of mine.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I think that there's adequate space provided, but, would be open. If you think there's ways that this site plan could change to address that, we'd be happy to hear.
I'm not interested in stacking cars waiting to get out.
Yeah, and that may be misleading, me saying that. Across our communities, there is no problem with car stacking. They pull up, they have a fob, the gate opens, they enter. So it's a pretty seamless process.
Also, your facility, are those units for rent or for sale?
These are for rent. All these units are for rent.
Okay, and basically what type of population rents those? Is it young adults, or is it older people? What is the clientele?
Yeah, so about 9% of our residents across our portfolio are school-age children, so that's K through 12. I don't know, Ben, if you want to speak to demographics at all.
Sure. Yeah, I don't have the exact percentages handy. We can follow up with the Plan Commission on that, but I do know our two largest resident segments are millennials, people over the age of 55. So really what we're trying to do here is craft a community with amenities and high-quality housing that's attractive to a broad segment of the community.
So you said on school-age children is what? What percentage?
Yeah, K through 12,
Yeah.
9%.
9%? Okay. Okay, my thing is, Mishawaka is getting to be known as apartments and condos and not single-family units. And I have a problem of developers coming in constantly making condos, apartments for rent and not single-family homes. If this community is going to grow educational-wise, we have to have single-family homes. So I am not really in favor of adding another unit like this in Mishawaka. I mean, we're bleeding to death. We're cutting the throat of Mishawaka. Mishawaka can't survive on apartments and rental units. They just can't. Down the road, you've got to have single-family homes for young people to come in, affordable ones, to come in and start families. This community needs families to come in. And apartments, complex, condos and that doesn't provide that. They come and go. Traffic comes and go. They're not settling down. They're not raising families and that. And like you say, we as a community can't survive on that type of transit. So that's just my thought. I appreciate what you're doing. I think there's a need someplace, but not always in Mishawaka.
They're holding the cake.
Thank you.
Yeah, briefly, if we could just respond, totally appreciate the desire for a mix of housing types across the community. I guess I would say as Continental looks at potential development markets, one of the leading indicators of supply and demand that we see is the current occupancy rate of apartments. We typically regard a healthy occupancy rate in the community at about 94%. That allows for people to move to a different apartment. It allows newcomers to the community to get an apartment. And our research indicates that the apartment occupancy rate in the greater South Bend market area, including Mishawaka, is closer to 97%. So again, we've trying to meet the need for housing across the community, across multiple different housing types.
Well, to my, it's the wrong type of housing. It's not family housing. So, thank you for your presentation. Thank you.
And I appreciate diving into the demographics a little bit more on that. I do know that Mishawaka has a lot of single-family houses that are being built right now. I live in Riverwood, and they're popping up like pup tents right now, too. So yeah, I understand the mixed-use case around this as well. Is there any other questions for this presentation?
You brought up a 9% demographic for young children. Are you putting any amenities in there to address that?
Yeah, so again, it's K through 12, so, we've we've had, we've considered that. There is what I would consider ample green space in this plan. So we have 2 pet playgrounds or areas that people can run around with their dogs. In addition to that, we do have the pool and pool deck that is, will be operation for, a sizable portion of the year. And then lastly, there is, it's difficult to see, but on this plan, but north of the proposed pond, there's an outdoor seating area. So I would say there is room for, young children to recreate outdoors if desired.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Cressy.
First question, I guess, and this ties into the comments on the K through 12. Have you contemplated making this more of a mixed-use development with some space for some commercial use, whether it's restaurant or otherwise? And a follow-up to that, I was reading the plan here, and it says a car care center is going to be included. If you could touch on that, and just commentary, I thought that said daycare center, which I thought was a great idea, could be useful.
Yeah, Continental, we've not looked at developing commercial here. I don't know, Ben, if you want to speak to that at all, but briefly I can just touch on the car care center. So the car care center is located near our pet playground. Can you see my mouse up there? No. The car care center is near the number 2, if you can make that out on your plan. But the car care center is an area where residents can take their vehicles really for cleaning out. There's a commercial-sized vacuum, so they can clean their cars out, wash their cars, et cetera. There is no car maintenance, but the other thing I should add about the car care center, there is a pet or dog washing station incorporated into that as well. So typically we like to locate that near a pet playground so it's convenient for residents to watch their pets after playing with them outdoors.
And did you want to comment on the commercial?
Sure, yeah, happy to comment on that. Continental did not contemplate a retail component to this development. That's not something we've done with our other developments around the region, around the country. I think we feel generally that the site is already very well served with retail amenities within easy walking, biking, or driving distance of the site.
Okay. Our area we're blessed with a vibrant car care industry. We've got quite a few car washes that are going up, and it's, we've got some great options. So I'd love to see the car care facility maybe be contemplated as a daycare facility. A couple other questions. A unit mix. I was wondering what the sizes are of each of your units, and if you could share if you have a suggested price point that you're going to be marketing these units at.
Ben, do you want to speak to the price of the units?
Sure, happy to do that. So, still subject to additional market research and analysis, but, currently we're targeting a rent of around, say, $1.90 per square foot. So that would translate to, somewhere around $1,500 a month for a studio unit, up to, $2,350 or so per month for a 3-bedroom unit. Our typical unit mix is about 10% studios, 40% 1-beds, 40% 2-beds, and 10% 3-bedroom
Can you
units.
repeat those one more time?
Sure. That's 10% studio units, 40% 1-bedroom, 40% 2-bedroom, and 10% 3-bedroom units.
Thank you.
There's kind of been a growing trend of apartments being used for Airbnb and VRBO by whomever. Is that something that's a permitted use within your facility?
No.
Thank you.
Could you give you the rent for the things? I missed it, what you said. Could you give a rent for each one, roughly?
Sure, yeah. So
Studio?
roughly speaking, studio is around $1,500 a month. 1-bedroom in the $1,700 to $1,750 range. 2-bed units in the $2,100 to $2,150 range, and 3-beds around $2,350. Again,
What was the last one?
$2,350, with the caveat that that's subject to additional market demand analysis.
And thank you. That's all I've got.
What about employment numbers? How many people do you plan on employing to operate the facility?
Yeah, so we have a full-time on-site maintenance personnel as well as full-time on-site leasing agent. In a handful of our communities, they actually live on-site, so we offer, free rent to those working within the community. Regarding jobs, I would say 5 full-time jobs with, 2 of those being on-site, potentially full-time.
Property management, maintenance.
Correct.
Thank you for that question. Any other questions on this presentation? Nope, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the room wishing to speak in favor of petition 23-21? Anybody online wishing to speak in favor of 23-21? Moving on, is there anybody in attendance wishing to speak in opposition to petition 23-21? Hi, come on up.
My name is Andrew Piper, P-I-E-P-E-R. I live at 15005 Grande Vista. I know Mr. Walker doesn't like to talk to us county people. I've been there before with them when they built the intersection. Anyway, I live right where that parkway hits Fur Road. I'm that northeast corner residence. It runs right into my driveway. Anyway, evidently, these 2 gentlemen just spoke, haven't sat out there at 8 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the afternoon and watched the traffic pattern on Fur Road, Beacon Parkway, Grand Vista, Santa Monica, all that circle around the back of the church. There's a very large Catholic church there. We all know what it is, St. Pius. I call it St. Bigfoot because they have Bigfoot in our neighborhood. Anyway, we have tremendous traffic, not just during the masses on the weekend, but during the week we got an 800-member school they put up there. Now, they've done what they've done. The county let them get away with it. Now, we're talking about increasing this traffic. If you sit out there take a lawn chair, sit out there in my front yard and watch the racetrack from Cleveland Road headed north, it's like 5 lanes with deceleration lanes, across center turn lanes. All of a sudden, it necks down right at the north edge of that property there, or it actually starts just a couple hundred yards north of the intersection, necks down to 2 lanes, because the church does not want, you haven't heard from them yet, the church does not want 4 lanes, 5 lanes across for their parishioners to cross. We've been here before with this. It necks down to 2 lanes. I've been there 40 years. I've watched the development of the church and the Beacon Parkway, all of that. Somebody needs to take the lawn chairs and sit out there and watch what happens. Everybody from Knollwood, literally, comes up Fur Road, races to the 2 lanes, who can get there first, and hits the light, and then heads up north, and all of a sudden, past the church, just past the church, 50 yards, you can use a wedge to get that distance. Anyway, it goes out to 7 lanes or whatever it is out there at the intersection. And then the same thing happens coming south. Now, they're proposing this one entrance into this layout here. Well, it's all got to go to the west. People living there are not going to drive on that, we call it the road to nowhere, out to the toll road entrance. What are they going to do, go to Chicago every day? No, it just goes to the toll road entrance. There's nothing else there other than the Beacon Health System and stuff out on the corner. Friends of mine built that. I'm glad for them. Anyway, it's going to just encumber that neighborhood to where it's impossible. So until somebody, the city, along with the county, in regard to the church, makes that Fur Road workable, get rid of that bottleneck, we're not going anywhere. 8 o'clock in the morning, I cannot get out of my driveway. Those cars from that church, all 800 of those kids, they don't carpool there. They all ride in a Suburban, 1 kid per Suburban. And they line up, sometimes they're lined up in my friend's driveway here, across the street from my house, that driveway, because you can't get out. I have to walk out and ask somebody, would you please let me out of my driveway? 3 o'clock, you got to do the same thing. You can't get in and out of my driveway because of the church traffic. This is unbelievable what this church traffic is. So somebody needs to take the lawn chairs out there and look at this. I came tonight not to oppose or advocate anything. We need someone to do a study before we go any further. This is suicide. So the traffic needs to be addressed before they put in this development. All that traffic is going to come out. They're not going to go east. They're going to go west. And it's all going to land in my front yard, and then they're going to mostly go to the south. Now, people in the know, living in a place like this, they're going to come up Santa Monica, which comes out on 23, a little bit farther north, behind the church. There's no traffic signal there. 2 times a day, they have to have police officers out there to direct traffic, stop traffic on 23, stop traffic on Fur Road to let these parents and kids and stuff, 800 students, all right? And there's no such thing as a bus. These are all in one car. If there isn't 800, there's 750, all right? They have to, either go out on 23, which they don't like to do because that's kind of dangerous out there, so they all come down my little street there. It's only 1 block long, but they're lined up all the way back to the church. You cannot get out, so someone needs to just do a study, improve whatever they've got going on there before they approve this thing here, because it's not going to go east, can't go north, it's got to go west, the way they've got it laid out. And there we are, down in the bottleneck. So I'm all for building this thing there. They put this in about 8 years ago or so, the Beacon Parkway. This was inevitable. And I'm the guy on the corner. I'm the one that it affects the most.
Which one is yours?
I'm right on the corner where Beacon Parkway hits Fur Road.
Oh, where it hits Fur Road, okay, got it.
Go
Yep,
right there. That's my house. No, not somebody else's house. I'm there on the south there, right there. So we knew this was coming. It was going to be gas stations, restaurants. They all threw this at us with the remonstrance possibilities and all that stuff, same as tonight. And we all knew what was going to happen. We couldn't do nothing about it because the city of Mishawaka was bound and determined to do that. They even built that parkway and left it sit for a year with all the lights on, not open to traffic. They got it done hurriedly. Oh, well, it would look pretty. So we knew what was coming, and there's supposed to be, that whole parkway is supposed to be on both sides, all lined up with stuff. So once again, this is just the start of what's going to happen to our little neighborhood there. Someone needs to come out there and sit and see this racetrack. It's unbelievable. That's really, like I said, I'm not opposing it, and I'm not for it. Something has to be done before this happens, all right? So, and I'd like to be part of that. I'd at least like to have a discussion with whoever it is in your planning commission that does these kind of things, these studies, because I can give them a lot of insight. And they're welcome to the use of my property to sit there and watch.
Well, we'll talk a little bit about the traffic issues in the entrance here in the remonstrance, but thank you for all of your comments.
Thanks for listening, gentlemen, and ma'am.
You got it. Is there anybody else in the room wishing to speak against petition 23-21? Hi, come on up.
Hi, I'm Larry Cole, 15234 Grand Vista, Granger, Indiana, 46530. And I just want to say ditto. I'm the one that lives where Beacon Parkway hits Fur Road. It goes 1 block, and then I have 22 acres back there. I've been blessed. But if I leave my house at 7:30 in the morning or 3 in the afternoon, there will be a whole block of cars waiting at Fur Road. I can get out of my driveway a block away, and I'm waiting for for all those cars, but the cars that are going north on Santa Monica to the church are just running the stop sign and following all those cars, and I actually have to just encroach on them and say, obey the stop sign so I can get in, and then wait for about 14 cars to go on Fur Road.
Which one is your house, Mr. Cole?
On the lower corner, the southwest corner is my pole barn.
Oh, I see.
And my
Okay.
house is
I gotcha.
800 feet west of there.
Yep.
And, oh, by the way, I'm looking at the traffic coming out of that place, and you're gonna look left, and all you're gonna see is that curve. There's gonna be an awful lot of cars coming around that curve that you're not gonna be able to see it. Seems like that driveway ought to be right dead center in that curve so they can see in both directions. But I agree with Andy. If, I anticipate or imagine that maybe they're getting a good deal on that land that isn't First Source Banks, and that's why they want it there. I'm just wondering why they don't maybe consider putting it like where Bobix used to be, somewhere like that, come out on Cleveland Road. Just seems an unlikely spot for that. But I'm really concerned about the traffic too, and I come up to that intersection and turn left all the time, and I see people, it's 30 miles an hour, and I see people racing maybe 50 because there's a right lane, and they want to get in the left lane because they know it funnels down. So they're racing in the right lane to try to get ahead of all the other people so they can continue north on that narrow stretch. So I would think Mr. Piper suggests maybe tabling this long enough to do a traffic count and assessment of that.
Well, I appreciate you coming up. We'll talk traffic in the rebuttal. I appreciate that,
Thank you.
Mr. Cole. Is there anybody else in the room wishing to speak against petition 23-21? Come on up.
Hi. My name is Jill Bohr. I live at 52785 Fur Road, which is directly across from where they want to build the apartments. I drove bus for 31 years. The last 2 before I retired, I had to have the officer stop traffic so I could actually back into my driveway. It's gotten worse, and as the gentleman said, you cannot get out of your driveway. They put the school in a few years ago, and there's traffic behind me on Santa Monica, there's traffic on Fur Road, and you can't get out of your driveway. So I went around the neighborhood and got a petition, which I turned in tonight. None of the neighbors want the apartments because that's at least 300 plus more cars. They may come out on Beacon Parkway, but they will use Fur Road. So I'm here to protest that. And that's kind of all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming. Is there anybody else in the room wishing to speak against petition 23-21? Is there anybody online wishing to speak against petition 23-21?
Mr. President, I do have the petition that was dropped off to be read, so.
Thank you.
Read that for the
I
record.
appreciate that.
It's labeled as petition to stop apartments. Does not have, it has 22 signatures on it, but no addresses identified. But we did have the remonstrator identify just previously. So it says petition to stop apartments. We moved to the country setting. Now we have a school bus, heavy traffic, a police officer has to direct traffic. Hard to get out of our driveways. We own a fifth wheel, we back into our driveway, and we have to stop traffic in order to do that now. We anticipate more development from Beacon Medical, which will bring more traffic. What will this new development apartments do to our taxes? Are they going to make Fur Road wider? With the traffic we have now, there is already a lot of road rage. With the increase of 300 more families, how is that traffic going to be anticipated for buses? Where will the driveways for the apartment complex be? I'm considered county now with the apartment businesses going into the area. It's like we're in the city now. We want county life, not city life. We do not want any more traffic. Please take into consideration our request for this to be businesses, not apartments. Thank you for consideration. It says neighbors on Fur Road.
Thank you for reading that. Is there any other opposition to be voiced on petition 23-21? If not, I will close the public hearing, and I will listen to some of our commissioners on their thoughts on this. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not going to close it. Right of rebuttal, we're going to talk traffic. I forgot about this. Come on up. Thank you, Murray. See, it's always good to have Murray back.
Thank you to all the neighbors that came this evening and spoke. Andrew, Larry, Jill, you know, we can appreciate your comments. I think a couple things we'd just like to touch on. Larry, you brought up the specific location of the entry drive. So to speak to that, there's an existing curb cut there that we'd be utilizing. In addition to that, I'm imagining that when that roadway was designed, they had sight lines in mind. And, you know, we have a vision triangle that would be adequate for cars, you know, accessing that entry point along Beacon Parkway. Regarding traffic concerns, again, you know, it's not something that we've discussed, like we had discussed previously. We'd be dedicating that right-of-way that would, you know, pave the way for future roadway expansion. But, you know, regarding traffic, that's really all we can speak on at this point.
And the one entrance that you have at other locations, you don't see bottlenecks with like guests needing to call in or anything like that? I've seen that at other places that get queued up with
No,
guests.
no. So, and it may be challenging to see on this plan, but the gate actually sits slightly behind where the clubhouse is. So there is visitor parking in front of the gate, directly in front of the clubhouse.
Oh, can you put that up, that other photo? No, there was another photo that I think showed the gate better.
If you're able to pull up the PowerPoint, there's a slide on there. There we go.
There you go. So where's the gate?
So the gate is right here where my, so the gate is, if you can see the clubhouse building on the north west corner of the proposed pond.
Oh, we can't put a pen on it. That's
So directly west of that clubhouse is where the gate is. So if you follow that drive aisle up.
Okay, so that parking there is before the gate.
Yeah, and then we strategically designed that entry drive to allow points of turning so that cars aren't stuck in the stack if, you know, that were to be the situation that presented itself. And then in addition to that, you know, design aspect, there's also the visitor parking, like I mentioned, that's not behind the gate. So, you know, visitors can always turn in, park there, enter through the clubhouse as well.
Other questions on this right of rebuttal for the petitioners? No? Thank you. With that, I'll close the public hearing. I'm going to ask our executive director just for a couple of comments on the traffic and what was considered before and what we may do in consideration moving forward.
Right, so I think the history and the perspective is important. I just saw our city engineer, Chris Jamrose, nodding when talking about the clear vision area for Beacon Parkway. Beacon Parkway, as was mentioned, was master planned and developed, I think, more than 8 years ago now. Close to 10. Each of those entrances was strategically designed so that you had the appropriate turning movements at each location. Regarding the apartments and the single access, we have multiple apartment complexes that have single access points in the city, one of them being the Spring Lake, I believe it's Spring Lake Apartments immediately across from Granger Community Church, is one where University Drive, as we all know, currently carries significantly more traffic than what Beacon Parkway does, and there's been no issues in terms of, I understand people have to wait to turn out. As with any area that carries a lot of traffic, you would have to do, but we have not had, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, any problems with that access point. And what's different here is this one is designed with a throat and stacking associated with it, so it's actually better than Spring Lake in terms of a functional design. And then we have other apartment complexes. You have, I think it's Remington Place on Main Street, also has one access point. And there's multiple others that go through. So we really feel like the traffic has been appropriately designed. Fur Road, we understand is an issue, and I think we'd be happy to partner with the county if they would have a project. I think the issue there is much more of the 30-some thousand people that built in Granger and are using Fur Road and accessing that location. As the city has grown and we brought it north, we've continually expanded and widened and accounted for the additional traffic. And I think as we move, and if this annexation goes forward, we ultimately are responsible for Fur Road for that additional amount moving north. And so, but ultimately, I think it would have to be that partnership, given the impact of the church, that we would want that partnership with the county to move that forward. And I think we're completely open to that type of project moving forward. We'd have to figure out how to fund it, but that we know it needs to happen over time. Regarding the use, one of the things I want to stress is that when we designed Beacon Parkway, we wanted it to be a higher density development, whether that be commercial or residential. And the price point for the property, I can just say, would make it completely not feasible to do single-family residential in this location. Having been doing this for a considerable time, one of our challenges in the city is that we're in a region of 700,000 plus people. If you draw a bullseye in that area, Mishawaka is dead located in the center of it, and people continue to want to locate here. And so when projects like this come up, it's why we have a higher percentage of these types of projects in Mishawaka, is because of that central location to both shopping and businesses, but also the region as a whole. So from a density standpoint, from a development standpoint, as we noted in the staff recommendation, we feel like this is a great project. I think the challenge is, and I think we completely agree with Councilman Emmons regarding the single family and the need to grow single family. One of the items that we put, and this isn't as a side I was going to talk on later tonight, but I'll bring it up now, is we're looking to redo our comprehensive plan for the city. And one of our challenges is going to be to how do we better attract and how do we bring more single family, as Mr. Emmons mentioned, into the city. And I think that's a great goal and point to look at as part of the comprehensive plan. But the one thing I will note is, regardless of what happens in that comprehensive plan, this property would not ever be conducive to a single family development. So I would just ask for that consideration as the council, or as the commission and council further consider this request. And I'm happy to answer any questions if I've missed anything that the commission has any questions about.
Oh, Mr. Portelis.
I do. Can I ask the gentleman a question at this point?
Yeah, we can. The public hearing's closed, but we can ask the question.
I'm curious your timeline. Building occupancy, when you would expect full occupancy?
Yeah, so we would expect to, and Ben, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but start construction around June of next year, and then typically our first building will turn 11 months later. So we'd be looking at first occupants being in the summer of 2025.
And when would you project full occupancy?
Typically, once our first building turns, it takes about a year. So full occupancy by the summer of 2026.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioners wishing to speak on this petition? If not, I will take a motion on petition 23-21. A motion, 23-21. Somebody's going to vote one way or the other.
Can we make a motion to table?
Second.
There's been a motion to table. Can we table it?
I would just like it identified why we would be tabling it. Usually when you table, you would request certain information. I'm not sure what we would be requesting or why the table. So I would just merely ask the motioner to identify that.
I guess my point in that is, I don't want to taint the project by voting against it, but I would like some better answers on the impact and how we're going to address it on the community around it.
I'm not sure what is left to answer. What specifically are you looking for, Commissioner?
Well, all of these people that came, I mean, we're affecting their homes, and Fur Road is,
So what I heard this evening is that definitively they have issues on Fur Road. These
Right.
issues have developed over a period of probably 40 years.
Right.
As Granger has developed, as the church has expanded. We've consistently improved the roads in Mishawaka as we've grown and continued, and will continue to do so. I don't feel it's appropriate to hold up any motion on this specific development. It's entirely being fed by Beacon Parkway. And so the traffic, Beacon Parkway is definitively designed for the level of traffic. When you look at what Beacon has already constructed on Beacon Parkway, in terms of in and out traffic, the fitness center probably has more in and out traffic than what the proposed apartments would have. So again, I would merely ask what we are doing.
I think I'd question your statement about Beacon only because Beacon is going to be through the day. And I believe an apartment complex with families, people leaving for work at 8 and coming home are going to coincide with the heavy traffic from St. Pius. And I don't believe Fur Road is ready to
So I
handle
guess
that.
I mean, and I don't want to have this discussion on the floor, but I think what offends me to the core is we are limited to what we control in Mishawaka.
Right.
But yet the county continues to develop subdivision after subdivision. There's development in Lower Michigan, all which take Fur Road that are located further north. And I would speculate that the traffic from this facility, although some will turn north, most will turn south, some will go to Capitol Avenue to areas beyond. So it will be dispersed. So if we are going to hold up development in Mishawaka because of the long-term impacts of 30 years or 40 years of development, I'm not sure what we would accomplish by doing that.
Yeah, and I totally respect what you're saying. I completely respect what you're saying. I don't have a good feeling that this area can, the
So what would
infrastructure
you,
is ready.
I mean, in terms of the development of property, I mean, everybody has rights. We've already got this property, the front portion of the property that's in the city, zoned for commercial, very similar to what Beacon is.
Right.
This, in terms of a traffic generator, is different in terms of that people come in over a longer period and go out over a longer period of time. I'm not sure what we are looking for or what we would expect that would be different than the proposal here before you in terms of the impact to the neighbors. So that's what I guess what I want to drill down on is.
And I guess avoiding trying to be argumentative, because the project within the footprint that it sits, I
Right.
support. The area, once you expand it out around the infrastructure that has to support that, I have some doubt. And granted, it's beyond our control. San Joe County has Fur Road. We're going to have to approach them, and we're kind of at their mercy, and the developers are kind of at their mercy. So like I said, rather than vote against it, I'd rather not taint this and somehow get some dialogue with the county at least to say, look, we're going to put something big here. What's your thoughts?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I think we have a motion and a second for tabling.
For
That has to
tabling.
be acted on
We have to
first,
vote.
so-
Yep, let's act on that. Do we want to table that, yes or no? Donna, would you please call for the vote?
Chris Jamrose,
No for table.
Murray Nguyen,
No.
Woody Emmons,
Yes.
Sam Cressy,
No.
Kathy White Gaddich,
No.
Mike Portalese,
Yes.
and Chris Doherty.
No, the motion will not be tabled. Could I have another motion on petition 23-21?
I'll make a motion to approve petition 23-21 as presented.
We have a motion to approve,
Second.
and we have a second. Donna, would you please call for the vote?
Chris Jamrose,
Yes.
Murray Nguyen,
Yes.
Woody Emmons,
No.
Sam Cressy,
Yes.
Kathy White Gaddich,
Yes.
Mike Portalese,
No.
Chris Doherty.
Yes. And that will move to the council with a favorable rating. Moves us on to replat 23-06, a request submitted by Dragoon Properties LLC seeking approval of the 4-lot Clover Valley first replat. Is there somebody here to present this?
Good evening. Chris Godlewski, Abbott Marsh, 315 West Jefferson Boulevard, South Bend. This is a pretty straightforward request, and thank you for the staff for a positive recommendation. The whole purpose of the plat, these 4 lots to be replatted, is just to move the alignment of the road to better align with Clover Road to the south. There was just an error in the platting, and it had to be shifted over 15 feet. There's no more additions to the lots. There's no more lots added. It's just the reshaping of the existing lots based on the realignment of the road. So I'll take any questions if you have any.
Questions on this replat? Anybody? No?
The replat is to move the road east to align it?
15 feet, yes.
That's what I thought you
Yes.
said. I just wanted to verify that I was
Yep.
reading it correctly. Thank you.
It's a function of engineering, yep.
Thanks, Marie. Thank you for the presentation. Is there anybody in line or online or in the room wishing to speak in favor of replat 23-06? No. Is there anybody online or in the room wishing to speak against replat 23-06? None. Is there any additional information? None. Then I will close the public hearing, and I will take a motion or listen to anybody who has anything to say about 23-06.
I move that we approve replat.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Donna, would you please call for the vote?
Chris Jamrose?
Yes.
Murray Wynn?
Yes.
Woody Emmons?
Yes.
Sam Cressy?
Yes.
Kathy White Gaddage?
Yes.
Mike Portalese?
Yes.
Chris Doherty?
Yes, and replat 23-06 passes. Next, we move to a design review. A request submitted by the City of Mishawaka on behalf of Women's Care Center, Inc., requesting a waiver from the Mishawaka City Design Review Ordinance, Section 105-76, Architectural Materials, and Sections 105 through 115, Fences and Walls, for 605 Lincoln Way East, Mishawaka, Indiana. Is there somebody in the room or online? I see somebody in the room. Come on up.
My name is Andy Mollison. I'm with Alliance Architects, 929 Lincoln Way East in South Bend. So, yeah, we submitted the design waiver to be permitted to use fiber cement siding as, yes, it's an imitation product, but the idea is that it imitates wood, which is a natural material, so it was kind of described in the design waiver. We felt like this is in keeping with the character of the neighborhood, but at the same time, it's a durable material that won't have the maintenance issues that traditional wood naturally has, and that seemed to be keeping in the spirit of trying to use natural, durable materials throughout the city.
Thank you.
That's
for
the
presentation.
crux of it. I'm here to answer any other questions if I can.
Great. Any questions?
This is related to, I believe, the last time you were in front of the commission, we were discussing the positioning of the building and where the playground would be. I was just wondering if there was any additional thought put into that.
As far as moving it on or adjusting the location on the site?
Yes.
If I may answer that, so we had 3 proposals come before us.
Thank you.
United Way is the one that
Thank
had
you.
the playground, not
Thank
the.
you. Yeah, thank you.
okay.
I was confused why I didn't see anything.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I was not prepared to
What's he
answer that
talking
question,
about?
so thank you.
They're very close.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Emmons?
Is there a reason why you want a variance between the exterior siding that you want to propose, other than cost?
Well, the way we interpreted the ordinance is that we wouldn't be able to use a siding material necessarily, and it would have to be a stone, slate, granite, something of that nature. So in order to keep this building looking on the residential side, we have mixed the materials so that we do have stones and kind of a heavier base material around it, but at the same time, we're incorporating those materials, or at least the appearance of materials that are very similar to the neighborhood, which would be traditional clapboard, horizontal type siding. So In this case, though, we can't use wood, and we agree with the ordinance on that score, that we shouldn't be using just painted wood out in the neighborhoods because it just doesn't last for very long. And so in some ways, it's really more of a clarification on the intent. We thought that reading what is allowed in the ordinance, what we're doing is basically doing that same kind of thing. It's just there isn't a natural, or how should I say, there isn't a natural product that can replicate clapboard siding and be durable. So in this case, it's the perfect compromise. There are other products that can be used. That are on the market that are probably less familiar in the community that we've used on other products, but fiber cement seems to be the one which has kind of risen to the top to say this is what we should do, rather than vinyl siding, which breaks down in UV, and if it gets damaged, it falls apart. And in aluminum, which when it gets dented, it clearly doesn't look like wood anymore. So those simulated products wouldn't accomplish the same durability and yet have the same residential feel of the building that we're trying to put on that corner.
Now, my question was going to be, what is the texture of the material?
Oh, smooth versus a wood grain?
Well,
because it comes in two textures.
What's being proposed here, is it full brick, is it wood?
Oh, well, so the elevations that we have on here, and those are, I think we had some renderings as well, but basically the darkest parts of those buildings that you're seeing on there are, that's a stone veneer. Yep, and then everything else is a horizontal siding, kind of a simulated clapboard siding.
Oh, okay.
So it's a layered, it's like a horizontal shingled look.
I understand.
And I think we had, I guess they're not in here, we had submitted some photos of all the buildings around the property, with the exception of the church across the street, have horizontal siding as their base material with the exception of one that has wood shingle appearance, but we were not proposing trying to retain that because it's just not keeping in the character of the rest of them, so.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mine.
Mr. Emmons.
Like to finish mine.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
You know, we have requirements in that, and then we always have people come and want to change the requirements in that. And if we have a requirement that you have to have a specific type of material, then we need to stick with that. We're constantly changing what we put in our ordinances and that, and I get tired of it. You know, if it's not going to be stuck to, then don't have it in there. Don't have it to where they have to come every time and get a variance from what we've specified that you have to have. And to me, if you're coming into our city and you want to do something, you got to stick to our regulations and what we propose for materials that we say that we authorize, and not coming in and asking for a change. Because you're coming in basically to cut your cost.
Councilman Emmons, I have to interject here because that is not the case here. We asked them to build a building that it fits into that neighborhood, and that's exactly why they're not asking for a variance, they're asking for a waiver. And I appreciate the distinction, but it's from an artistic perspective of fitting this home or this office into a residential neighborhood to make it look like a home. We asked them to do that. This is what the architect recommended. And from a staff perspective, we wholeheartedly agree because I think they've done their job in terms of identifying that character that we want to fit into that residential neighborhood. So I understand that if we had a firm requirement that they would need a variance from, that your point would be completely valid. But the waiver, the whole design review ordinance was set up for flexibility to deal with situations. So if you were talking about downtown, for example, like by the mill or the Murphy Rice building, that would be a completely different question. But here we're jamming it right next to a single-family or multifamily residential units in this case. But those residential structures, we want it to look like it fits in and it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. And this is what the architect has come up with. So it's really not from a cost perspective. They could have gone cheap and met whatever the requirement was. But from a design perspective, this is what we asked them to develop as part of our sale of the lot. So, and we've had this discussion before, and so maybe we should have this discussion going forward of how we can change what it says. I don't know what to call it other than a waiver. Like, we want to establish flexibility to allow people to work, but yet we don't want to leave it completely rigid where we're telling them they have to do this and they can't do that. Do you know what I mean? So we developed that requirement to try to give them flexibility, And every time somebody asks for flexibility, we're upsetting you, and I don't want to upset you. So how do we draft something that you feel comfortable with, that they're not circumventing the rules? I guess that's what we're looking for. And that's probably a discussion you and I need to have after this, but we understand what you're saying, but they've also done what we've asked them to do. So I just want to represent that for the record.
Well, I appreciate that, but like I say, we've done things and then we come back to regret it when they have to come up, whether you call it a waiver or whether you call it whatever, on buildings throughout the city.
Right.
And I think you know the ones I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, we're not perfect, yeah.
So that's what I'm concerned about, Ken, is that, we're not, after the fact, it's built and everything, we're sorry that we approved it, that's all.
And I would maybe just piggybacking off Mr. Prince's comment, I think one of the challenges as the designers have is, are we permitted to use horizontal siding in the city? Because I think the spirit of the ordinance is very clear, and I think the idea is we want durable, natural-looking buildings and residences. But when it excludes wood or any simulated product, then that kind of reduces our ability to use horizontal siding, because there isn't a natural material that is, that would be wood. But I think we all agree we don't want wood. And I would also say that in some ways this building helps get to that point where we do, because it's a hybrid of stone and this durable wood right on the corner. So in some ways it's kind of the next stage, blending into the residential neighborhood, fitting into that context. It's a bridge in some ways, and so we felt like this is a nice way to kind of ease
What I'm
that
thinking
zoning.
about is you have a maintenance-free building, basically, so that it's durable.
And that's what
And it
we're,
doesn't
yes, sir, I think we're in agreement.
deteriorate.
Yeah,
Thank you, appreciate it.
you bet.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Is there anybody else in the room or online wishing to speak in favor of design review 23-06? Hearing none, is there anybody in the room or online wishing to speak in opposition to design review 23-06? If there's no additional information, I will close the public hearing and I will ask for a motion on design review 23-06.
I'd move to approve design review 2306.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Donna, would you please call for the vote?
Excuse me, did you say 2306?
06, did I say something? Did I have my glasses off?
Yes.
Did I say the wrong one?
No.
2306.
That's correct.
2309 is design. review.
23.
The agenda's wrong, Steph.
Yeah, I sent out a new one, yeah.
Oh,
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I brought extras, but.
Wait, am I reading the right?
You are.
You
Yeah.
are, you are.
Yeah, this is,
Wrong piece of paper.
no, this is an updated one, sorry, Murray. So, design review, 23-06 is the presentation we just heard. We had a motion from Mr. Portelis, a second from Kathy White Goddard. And if you could call the vote on 23-06?
Chris Jamrose,
Yes.
Murray Nguyen,
Yes.
Woody Emmons,
Yes.
Sam Cressy,
Yes.
Kathy White Gaddage,
yes.
Mike Portelis,
Yes.
Chris Doherty.
Yes, and 23-06 passes. Is there any old business?
No, Mr. Chairman.
In the form of new business, is there anything discussion-wise on the comprehensive plan, I noticed?
Yes, so I just asked Donna to include the email that I forwarded to the council for the Planning Commission. You're obviously the entity that needs to provide feedback into that. And so, since I started with the city, it's been my goal to redo the comprehensive plan. We've had various times that we've tried to start it, we haven't followed through on it. I finally identified that we don't have the capacity on staff right now to devote the appropriate amount of time to it. We've budgeted funds, $150,000 to redo this comprehensive plan. Various elements of that were identified in my email regarding different councilmen, commission members, of points that they want to address. What I wanted to do is, before we have Avonmarsh give us a scope, a price based on the scope of these various elements, we wanted the commission to weigh in on any scope items that we're missing. So anything that you think that I don't have in there that needs to be addressed, that's the type of thing that we were looking for feedback up front. So the document will change as we get into it, I get it, but what I didn't want to hear from the start with, well, you should have asked me, I was going to tell you to do this. So
Does it
now's your opportunity, and I'm really looking for the feedback by early next week to allow that type of feedback. But that's only regarding scope. Then once we get the scope, we'll get them under contract, and then we'll have public meeting processes, and there'll be input and all the rest. This is only regarding scope that we're asking for your input.
Understood, and thank you very much for putting this together. It's a very nice request. So what is the time frame on you wanting feedback from us, and how do you want to receive that feedback?
I'd like the feedback by email. I mean, also, and if you're not an email person, I'm happy to sit and talk with you. But I just need to understand it before I meet with Adam Marsh and have them put together the proposal.
That is when? So
That will be at the end of this month. I have not set a date yet. I was waiting
End of
for
this
the
month.
feedback.
So in the next.
But in my email, I believe I identified the beginning of next week as
Okay.
as that time.
Perfect.
Right.
Perfect. So let's all consciously take a look at this and get some comments over to Mr. Prince.
And again, if it's good, I'm not asking for, additional work, so that's,
Is there any other new business?
no, Mr. President, thank you.
Privilege of the floor. Would anybody like to speak on any topics that were not on the agenda items? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you all for your patience.
Thank you.
This was very exciting. This was exciting.